I was already in a hospital gown when the chief of surgery saved my life. Not in some dramatic movie way. He did it by stopping at the foot of my bed, opening my chart on a tablet, and going completely still. Up to that point, the morning had felt terrifying but organized. Pre-op nurse, IV line, allergy check, wristband scan, warm blanket tucked over my legs. The kind of controlled routine that makes you believe hospitals can hold fear in neat little containers if everyone keeps moving. I was 34, scheduled for a complicated abdominal surgery that my specialist had been pushing me toward for 6 months. It wasn't cosmetic. It wasn't optional. And while my odds were good, nobody had lied to me about the fact that any operation involving internal bleeding risk came with a conversation no one wanted to have. Complications, consent, emergency measures. I had signed for surgery. I had signed for anesthesia. I had signed for blood if necessary. I had not signed a DNR. So when Dr. Evan Mercer, chief of surgery, clipped voice silver at the temples, reputation for being impossible to rattle, looked down at his screen and said, "Why is there a do not resuscitate order in this chart?" My whole body went cold under the blanket. I pushed myself up on my elbows. What? He didn't answer me right away. He just tapped the screen once. Then again, like he thought the tablet might correct itself if he gave it another chance. "There's a DNR on file under your name," he said. The room seemed to narrow. My pre-op nurse, Lydia, looked up from the medication tray. "That can't be right." "It shouldn't be," he said. He turned the tablet so I could see it. My name, my date of birth, my medical record number. And, under active directives, a bright red notation, "Do not resuscitate." Active for a second, I genuinely thought I might throw up. "No," I said. "No, I never signed that." Dr. Mercer looked at me, and something in his face changed. Not panic. Not yet. But the fast internal math people do when a routine morning stops being routine. "Did anyone discuss a DNR with you at pre-op?" he asked. "No." "Did you sign one with another provider?" "No." "Did you authorize anyone to upload end-of-life directives on your behalf?" I swallowed. "Absolutely not." Lydia had stopped moving entirely now. The heart monitor beside me kept ticking out its calm green rhythm, while my own pulse felt like it was trying to rip through my throat. Dr. Mercer zoomed in on the document image. The signature line had my name on it. It was not my signature. That was the first thing I knew for certain. People always think forgery has to be elegant. It doesn't. Most of the time it's an insult, a bad copy, a lazy imitation, something written by someone who has only seen your signature on birthday cards and insurance forms and assumes that is enough to become you on paper. My name looked wrong immediately. Too careful, too slow. Whoever wrote it had tried to mimic the long tail on the last letter and missed the pressure change in the middle. They had copied the shape, not the motion. "That isn't mine," I said. My voice sounded thin but steady. "That is not my signature." Dr. Mercer nodded once. "I agree." Then he tapped into the audit trail. That was the moment I started understanding just how bad this was. Because he didn't just check the document, he checked the upload log, timestamp, user pathway, submission route. His eyes moved once across the screen, then stopped. He went very quiet. The kind of quiet that is worse than someone shouting. "Doctor," Lydia said. He didn't answer her. He was still looking at the log. Then he turned to me and asked, "Who is in the waiting room with you today?" "My parents," I said. He held my gaze for one beat too long. Just one, but it was enough. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like the bed had vanished under me. My parents had been acting strange for weeks, not kind. They were never kind unless they were staging something, just unusually attentive in that polished, concerned way they used around outsiders. My mother calling every other day to ask whether I had gotten my affairs in order. My father insisting he and Mom would handle anything at the hospital because families need structure when things go wrong. the way my mother had asked, out of nowhere, whether my condo was still titled only in my name, whether my investment account still held the sale proceeds from my late husband's insurance settlement, whether my existing will was still the old one. The old one. That phrase hit me now like a slap. 3 years earlier, when my husband Daniel died in a highway pileup, I was too numb to think clearly for months. I had updated some documents, but not all. At the time, with no children and no siblings I trusted, I had left a simple will naming my parents as equal beneficiaries, if anything happened to me. Later, when I started realizing who they really were under stress, I had meant to change it. I had started a draft. I had not signed it, which meant if I died on that table, they would inherit everything: the condo, the investment account, the remainder of Daniel's life insurance, a little over $1.2 million depending on the market that week. Lydia looked between us. Should I pause transport? Yes, Dr. Mercer said immediately. No one takes her anywhere until this is resolved. He stepped to the door, called for charge nursing, then came back in and lowered his voice. Listen to me carefully, he said. We are not proceeding with anesthesia while there is a disputed directive in your chart. Do you understand? I nodded. He looked back down at the screen again, then at me. This document was uploaded through a family access portal at 6:17 this morning. I felt every drop of blood leave my face. My surgery check-in had been at 5:40. My parents had arrived before 6. They had kissed my cheek, held my hand, sat beside my bed acting worried while my mother told the nurse, "She gets anxious, so we're trying to stay calm for her." Calm. At 6:17, while I was in a bathroom trying not to cry before surgery, somebody using family access had uploaded a forged order telling the hospital not to bring me back if my heart stopped. I heard myself ask, "Can you see who submitted it?" Dr. Mercer's jaw tightened. I can see the account credential attached to the upload. And he didn't answer right away. Then he turned the tablet back toward himself, stared at the screen one last time, and said in a voice so flat it scared me more than yelling would have, "I need security in the surgical waiting area, now." Lydia whispered, "Oh my God." My hands were shaking under the blanket, but my mind had gone strangely clear. My parents were out there right now, sitting in plastic chairs, performing concern, waiting to inherit my life. A minute later, Dr. Mercer looked at the name on the upload log, went silent, and asked the room, "Who submitted this?" The room moved fast after that. Lydia hit the call button. Dr. Mercer stepped into the hall and gave 3 clipped instructions I couldn't fully hear, but I caught enough. Hold transport, risk management, and security to surgical waiting. Then he came back in and asked me one question in the calmest voice imaginable. "Ms. Vale, for the record, do you want full resuscitative measures in the event of a complication during surgery?" "Yes," I said immediately. "Yes." "Full code." He nodded once. "Good. Say it again for the nurse." I turned my head toward Lydia. "I want every life-saving measure. I never signed a DNR." Lydia documented it on the spot. I watched her type with shaking fingers that were steadier than mine. That contrast did something strange to me. Made the situation feel more real than fear did. Nurses don't type like that over misunderstandings. They type like that when something has crossed a line. Within 3 minutes, the room had filled with the people hospitals send when a medical problem becomes a legal one. Charge nurse, risk manager, a patient relations director with a badge that clipped against her blazer every time she breathed. No one was loud. No one needed to be. Dr. Mercer handed the tablet to the risk manager, a woman named Sheila Dorsey, who read the directive, then opened the audit trail. "What account routed the upload?" she asked. "Family Access Proxy," he said. "Credential attached." She looked down at the name and her expression hardened. "Is the proxy still active?" Lydia checked the chart. only because the patient listed her mother as emergency contact after her husband's accident 3 years ago. It was never fully revoked in the legacy portal when pre-op migrated her records. I closed my eyes for half a second. Of course. After Daniel died, I had spent months signing whatever people put in front of me just to survive the paperwork. Insurance, funeral home releases, probate intake, hospital follow-ups. At some point, I had authorized temporary family access so my mother could help with a specialist referral while I could barely form sentences. I had forgotten about it. She hadn't. "Sheila," Dr. Mercer said. "Say the name out loud." The risk manager looked at me first, like she wished she didn't have to. Then she said, "The upload came from proxy credentials assigned to Karen Vale." My mother. For 1 second, I heard nothing at all. Not the monitor, not the hallway, not even my own breathing. It was like the room had been sealed under glass. Then everything rushed back at once. My mother in the waiting room, hands folded, telling people I was so brave. My father holding a coffee and frowning like a man enduring private pain, the careful concern, the polished worry, the timing. 6:17, not midnight, not days earlier by mistake. 6:17 in the morning, while I was already checked in for surgery. "She uploaded it," I said. Sheila chose her words carefully. "The credential tied to your mother's proxy access submitted the file. That's the same thing." No one corrected me. Dr. Mercer asked, "Any indication she merely uploaded a pre-existing document?" Sheila zoomed in on the audit line. "File origin appears to be a mobile scan. Created this morning at 6:12. Uploaded at 6:17. No previous copy in the chart. Created this morning. Not found in a drawer. Not old paperwork. Not confusion. Made this morning." I looked at the image again, the false signature, the date. And then I saw something I hadn't noticed before. There were witness lines. One had a printed name under it, Robert Vale, my father. The second line was marked with what was supposed to be a notary stamp, but the seal impression was blurred, generic, almost like someone had printed it from a website and flattened it through a scanner. I pointed at the screen. "That's him. That's my father's name." Sheila's jaw tightened. "I see it." Lydia muttered, "Jesus." Dr. Mercer turned to the charge nurse. "No visitors to this patient, none, and no one removes or accesses this chart without my authorization." Then he looked back at Sheila. "Security?" "They're already with the family in the waiting area." "Good." He started for the door, then stopped and turned back to me. "I need to ask another direct question. Are you safe if your parents are removed from the floor?" "Yes," I said. "Remove them." That answer came easier than I expected, maybe because something in me had snapped into focus. Parents who forge a DNR for a surgery patient don't get the word family anymore. They become a risk category. Sheila stepped into the hall and made a call I could hear pieces of. "Do not let them leave yet. Yes, both of them. I want photos of IDs if they presented any documents. Preserve lobby camera from 5:30 forward." Camera. That word cut through everything. If my mother had approached a desk, if my father had handed over papers, if either of them had said something to registration staff, the hospital would have it. A minute later, Dr. Mercer returned from the doorway, but he didn't come all the way in. He spoke to Sheila first. Too low for me to hear. She responded with one grim nod. Then he faced me. "Your parents told the front desk you had become emotional last night," he said. "They said you signed a directive at home and forgot to bring it. They offered to help by uploading it from your mother's phone." I laughed. It came out wrong. Too sharp, too empty. But I laughed because the lie was so clean, so pre-planned, so perfectly fitted to the version of me they had always tried to sell. Unstable when stressed, disorganized, lucky to have competent parents to manage the details. I never said that. "I know," he said. Lydia added, "And even if you had, this still wouldn't pass." That helped more than she probably realized. Not emotionally, structurally. Someone else in the room could already see the fraud without needing my whole family history to explain it. Sheila's phone buzzed. She checked it, looked at Dr. Mercer, then at me. "What?" I said. "The front registration supervisor found a second issue." My skin went cold again. "At 5:52, she said, someone requested a chart note addendum stating that in the event of a catastrophic intraoperative complication, the parents should be contacted as primary decision makers." I stared at her. "No," I said. "The request wasn't granted," she said quickly, "but it's in the system as an attempted administrative note. Same proxy source." They hadn't just tried to stop the hospital from bringing me back. They had tried to place themselves at the center of the room if something went wrong. My stomach turned so hard I had to grip the blanket. Dr. Mercer's voice went flatter than before. "This is now well outside a chart correction issue." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," Sheila said, "hospital legal is on the way. Security is separating your parents, and if the upload metadata says what I think it says, this may become a criminal matter." Then she lifted the tablet one more time, zoomed into the file details, and went still. "Doctor," she said quietly. "What?" She turned the screen toward him. At the bottom of the upload record, under source device details, there was one more line. File created from scanned packet titled Estate Planning Update. Dr. Mercer read it once. Then he looked at me and said, "Ms. Vale, before we take you anywhere near an operating room, I need to know whether your parents may have altered, more than just a DNR." The answer to that question arrived in pieces, first through the chart, then through my phone, then through the expression on the face of the hospital lawyer who walked into my pre-op room carrying a red folder and already looked tired of my parents. Her name was Monica Reyes, Associate General Counsel for the hospital. Mid-40s, dark suit, no wasted words. She introduced herself, confirmed that I was alert and oriented, then asked Lydia to read back every medication I'd received since admission. "Celine, pre-op antibiotic hold, no sedatives administered," Lydia said. Monica nodded. "Good. I want that preserved." "Why?" I asked. "Because if anyone tries to say you weren't competent when you corrected your directives, I want the medication record closed and certified before they can start inventing things." That was the moment I realized she was already ahead of me. Sheila handed her the tablet. Monica read the DNR, the audit trail, the failed request to make my parents primary decision makers, and the source label, estate planning update, without changing expression. Then she asked, "Was there only one uploaded page?" Sheila shook her head. "No, the packet is 7 pages. The DNR is page 4. My pulse spiked. 7? Monica turned the screen toward me. Page 1 was a cover sheet titled Personal Directive Update. Page 2 was a supposed healthcare proxy naming my mother as primary decision maker and my father as alternate. Page 3 was a HIPAA release granting them full access. Page 4 was the forged DNR. Page 5 was a comfort measures preference sheet. Page 6 was a witness page with my father's printed name. Page 7 was that fake notary seal again. They hadn't just tried to stop the hospital from reviving me. They had built an entire package around my death. For 1 second, I could not feel my hands. Monica spoke in the same even tone. "Do you recognize any of these documents as legitimate?" "No." "Did you sign any replacement healthcare proxy in favor of your parents?" "No." "Did you authorize them to make decisions for you if you were under anesthesia?" "No." She marked each answer with quick, neat strokes of her pen. Then my phone, which Lydia had left on the tray table after we switched it back on for legal calls, started vibrating again. This time it wasn't my mother. It was Graham Bell. Not the bank CEO kind of name, just an unfortunate coincidence. Graham was the trusts and estates lawyer who had handled Daniel's probate, and years ago, the simple will that still governed my estate. I answered on speaker. Tessa, he said, hospital counsel reached me. I need to confirm something immediately. Did you ever sign the revision we drafted last fall removing your parents as beneficiaries? I closed my eyes. No. There was a beat of silence. Then, if you died today, under the currently executed documents, your parents would inherit the estate equally. Monica didn't react. She just wrote that down too. How much is the estate valued at right now? She asked. Graham answered before I could. Condo equity plus investment account and retained insurance proceeds, around $1.2 million depending on market movement. No one in the room said anything for a second. Then Monica asked him, "Can you produce an emergency will and healthcare package today?" "Yes," he said, "if she has capacity, witnesses, and a notary." "I can give you all three," she said. That changed the energy in the room. Up until then, I had been the patient under threat. Now I became a person with a countermeasure. Graham started listing what he'd send: new will, revocation of prior proxy, fresh healthcare directive, durable power of attorney, and a sworn statement that I had never executed the packet uploaded that morning. While he talked, Sheila's phone buzzed with another update from security. She read it and looked up at Monica. "What?" "Your parents are saying you're confused," she said. "They told security you've been unstable since your husband died and that you begged them to take over if anything happened." I laughed once. I couldn't help it. It sounded raw and ugly in the room. Monica didn't even blink. "Good. We preserve that too." "Good?" I said. "Yes," she replied, "because desperate people start talking in patterns. The more they say, the more they fix their story to a timeline. Timelines can be checked." Sheila added, "Lobby camera already confirms your father handed registration a manila envelope at 5:54. Your mother kept her phone out during the upload window. We're pulling audio from the front desk." That was the first moment all morning I felt something other than fear, not relief, structure. My parents had walked into a hospital thinking this was just another place where a calm lie from wealthy looking. People would outrank whatever I said from a bed. They were wrong. By noon, Graham's emergency documents had arrived by courier. Monica read every page with me line by line. I signed slowly, clearly, exactly the way I always signed. 2 nurses witnessed. A hospital notary stamped everything. Sheila scanned the finished packet directly into my chart under legal hold, then printed a certified copy for Graham's runner. Fresh directive, full code, no parental authority, new beneficiary plan. 1 clean hour of paperwork undid the version of my death my parents had been building all morning. Then Monica's phone rang. She listened for 10 seconds, said, "Do not let them upstairs," and hung up. "What now?" I asked. She looked at me. "Your parents brought their own lawyer." My stomach tightened. "What are they claiming?" "That because your surgery has been delayed and you've received stress medication." "I haven't." "I know," she said. "But they are asking the hospital to freeze any replacement documents until they can challenge your competency." Lydia muttered something under her breath that sounded like a prayer and a curse at the same time. Monica picked up the certified medication log and tapped the line that showed no sedatives had been given. "They chose the wrong hospital for that argument," she said. Then she slipped the papers back into the red folder, stood up, and looked at Dr. Mercer. "Doctor, how long can we safely delay?" He checked the chart, then me. "A few hours, not much more." Monica nodded once. "Then we finish this fast." From the hallway outside, I heard raised voices for the first time all day. My mother, sharp, controlled, furious. Then a man's voice I didn't know saying, "My clients have rights." Monica opened the door, stepped into the hall, and said something too low for me to hear. A second later, everything outside went quiet. When she came back in, she was holding a photocopy security had just pulled from my father's envelope. At the top, in bold letters, was the title of a petition my parents had already prepared before I was even taken into surgery. Emergency request for temporary medical guardianship. Monica did not let their lawyer into my room. She took him to an administrative consult room across from pre-op, pulled in Sheila from Risk, the charge nurse, and Dr. Mercer, then had Lydia wheel me there herself so no one could later claim I was being hidden, sedated, or coached. When I arrived, my parents were already inside. My mother stood the second she saw me, one hand pressed dramatically to her chest. My father sat rigid beside a man in a navy suit with rimless glasses and the exhausted expression of someone who had agreed to an emergency job before seeing the facts. His name was Alan Fisk. He rose halfway from his chair. "Ms. Vale, I represent your parents on a limited basis regarding concerns about your present competency and the validity of any documents executed today under what?" Monica asked. "Celine?" That shut him up for a beat. My mother stepped in before he could recover. "Tessa, sweetheart, please don't do this. You were crying this morning. You said you didn't want machines. You said if anything terrible happened, you wanted us making decisions." I looked at her. There are moments when someone lies so cleanly you can feel all the years they have been practicing for rooms like this. I said none of that. My father leaned forward. "You have been fragile for years. Since Daniel, we have all been trying not to say it." That landed exactly where he wanted it to. Grief, widowhood, surgical fear, female instability, family concern. Pack enough respectable words around a theft, and people call it caregiving. Monica opened the red folder. "Then let's keep this very simple." She placed 3 documents on the table. Medication administration log, no sedatives. Capacity note, alert, oriented, coherent. Emergency replacement directive, executed with 2 nurse witnesses and hospital notary. Alan Fisk read them fast, then slower. My mother saw his face change and said, "She was under extreme emotional distress." "She was under fraudulent pressure," Monica corrected. He looked up. "Do you have evidence the uploaded directive was fraudulent?" Sheila slid over the audit sheet, lobby stills, and registration notes. 554, my father handing over a manila envelope. 612, packet created as a mobile scan. 617, uploaded via Karen Vale's proxy access. 552, attempted chart addendum naming my parents as primary decision makers. Then Monica placed the witness page on top. "Now look at page 6. He did. My father's printed name sat under the witness line. Then Monica laid down the notary page. "Now look at page 7. Alan frowned. "That seal looks wrong." "It is wrong," Sheila said. "We checked." She handed him a 1-page certification from the state notary database. The notary commission number printed on the packet had expired 11 months earlier. No valid seal, no active commission, no lawful notarization. My mother's face changed first. Not fear, not yet, annoyance, as if legality itself were being difficult. Alan set the paper down carefully. "You did not mention an expired notary." My father snapped, "That's technical." "No," Monica said. "A forged resuscitation order filed on the morning of surgery is not technical." The room went silent. Then Dr. Mercer, who had said almost nothing since we entered, stepped forward and placed his tablet on the table. "I checked something else," he said. He turned the screen toward Alan. "Source device metadata. Scan history, link device label, Karen Vale iPhone." Then another line beneath it. Document source folder, estate planning. Update/final. Alan stared at the screen. Dr. Mercer tapped. Once more. The packet was not downloaded from an old legal archive. It was scanned from fresh paper this morning, and page order indicates it was assembled as a set before upload. That was the moment their lawyer understood he was not defending worried parents. He was sitting beside 2 people who had built a death packet. He took off his glasses. "Did either of you prepare these documents this morning?" My mother answered too quickly. "We were trying to honor what she wanted." "That was not my question." My father made the mistake then. Maybe because he was angry. Maybe because men like him always think volume can outrun evidence. We did what any family would do if a daughter was making irrational choices with $1 million estate on the line. No one spoke for one full second. Then Monica said quietly, "Thank you." He looked at her. For what? For saying the quiet part out loud. Alan Fisk closed his file. Not slammed, closed. That was worse. He turned to my parents and said, "I cannot support a guardianship request on these facts." My mother stared at him. "Excuse me? You told me this was a confused patient scenario involving prior wishes. What I have here is an allegedly forged directive, an expired notary, a family portal upload, and a witness line bearing your husband's name on a same-day scan packet. I am done." He stood. My father rose too. "You can't just walk out." "I can," Alan said, "and I strongly suggest you stop speaking before hospital counsel or law enforcement asks another question." Law enforcement? There it was. My mother turned to me, dropped the soft voice entirely, and said, "You ungrateful little fool. Do you think this changes what is in your will?" Monica answered before I could. "It does now." She pulled the final paper from the folder and set it in front of my mother. "Fresh will summary. Executed today. Parents removed." My mother looked at it, then at me, and, for the first time in my life, I watched her lose control without a room to rescue her. "You vindictive." "Mrs. Vale," Dr. Mercer said, and his voice was colder than hers had ever been, "you submitted a disputed DNR under a surgery patient's name. You are finished on this floor." Security entered a moment later. Not dramatically. Just 2 officers at the door, 1 step inside, waiting for instruction. My father looked at them, then back at me, and made one last attempt to force the family script over the record. "She is our daughter." I held his gaze. "No, I'm your estate plan." That ended it. Security escorted them out. My mother kept talking until the hall swallowed her voice. My father went quiet. That, more than anything, told me he finally understood the room was no longer his. When the door shut, Dr. Mercer checked the time and looked at me. "We still need to decide whether to proceed today." I nodded too fast. "I want the surgery." He studied me. For a beat. "You understand what just happened?" "Yes." "You understand that if there are complications, the directive in your chart now is the only one we follow?" "Yes." He gave one short nod. "Good." Monica's phone buzzed in her hand. She read the screen, then looked up at Sheila. "What?" I asked. Sheila exhaled slowly. "Local police want copies of everything, and the detective assigned asked one very specific question." "What question?" Monica looked straight at me. "He wants to know whether the forged hospital packet matches a second set of documents your parents may have already tried to file against your estate." The detective's question got answered before they even wheeled me into the operating room. Not by my parents, by my father's own printer. Monica made one fast call to hospital security, who made one fast call to the detective downstairs. And within 8 minutes, a patrol officer was standing in pre-op with a photographed copy of something found in my parents' car after they were stopped from leaving the parking structure. A second packet. Same fake notary format, same witness page style, same cheap legal templates dressed up to look official. Only this one wasn't for the hospital, it was for my estate. Temporary amendment, emergency execution language, substitute beneficiary directive, durable authority request in the event of incapacitation. It was a messy stack of documents trying to do one simple thing. If I died in surgery or survived it, unable to speak right away, my parents wanted immediate control over everything. My condo, my brokerage account, Daniel's insurance money, all of it. The officer handed the photos to Monica, who looked through them once and passed them to me. I recognized my forged signature immediately. Again. This time they had dated it 2 days earlier, probably hoping that would make it look less rushed if anyone checked the ink or metadata. But the formatting gave them away. One page used the old address from the condo I sold after Daniel died. Another used my current one. One referred to me by my full married name. Another used a shortened version I never put on legal documents. They weren't careful because they didn't think they had to be. People like my parents never imagine the record will be read by someone who knows how to read it. Monica tapped the second packet with one finger. "This helps." "Helps?" I asked. "It turns a single horrifying hospital fraud into a pattern." That mattered. I could see it on everyone's face. One forged DNR, and maybe some lawyer somewhere would try to call it panic, confusion, bad judgment, family overreach. 2 coordinated document sets, one to stop resuscitation, one to seize control of the estate, and suddenly nobody in the room had to guess what my parents were trying to do. Dr. Mercer checked his watch. "We're out of delay." He crouched slightly, so I didn't have to crane my neck to look at him. "We can proceed now. Your chart is corrected, your new directives are in place, legal has locked the file, and your parents are barred from access. If there is a complication, we follow only what you signed today. Do you still want surgery?" I looked at the ceiling for a second. Not because I was unsure, because the morning had split my life into before and after, and I needed one clean breath before stepping into the part that still had to save my body after I had just saved myself from my own family. "Yes," I said. "Let's do it." The last thing I remember before anesthesia was Lydia squeezing my hand and saying, "You stay with us." When I woke up, it was dark outside. Recovery room, dry mouth, sore abdomen, monitor beeping. The kind of pain that tells you something terrible happened on purpose and something necessary happened anyway. The first face I saw was not my mother's. It was Monica's. She was still in her suit, though her jacket was folded, over one arm now. That alone told me the day had kept going long after I stopped being awake for it. "You came through well," she said. "There was blood loss, but no cardiac event. You are stable." I let that settle first. Alive. Then I asked, because I already knew I would, what happened? Monica pulled a chair closer to my bed. "Your parents were taken for formal interviews. No dramatic arrests in the hallway, if that's what you're imagining. But the detective moved quickly once he saw the second packet and the hospital upload logs. The fake notary information helped. The timeline helped more." "My father talked too much," I said. She almost smiled. "Yes, he did." She told me the rest in clean lines. Lobby footage showed my father handing over the envelope and pointing to the front desk scanner. Registration notes recorded my mother saying I had become too emotional to handle serious decisions. The upload metadata tied the hospital packet to her phone. The car search turned up the estate packet, draft printouts, and a receipt from an office supply store time-stamped the night before for legal paper, toner, and notary embossing stickers. Notary embossing stickers. I actually laughed through the pain at that. My parents had almost killed me with craft supplies. Monica continued. "The detective also contacted your attorney. The replacement will and directives executed today are secure. Your parents no longer inherit anything from your estate." That hurt them more than handcuffs would have. I knew it instantly. "Did they ask for me?" I said. "They demanded access. They did not get it." "Good." The next 48 hours passed in a blur of pain management, sleep, short walks, and signatures. Graham came in person with final copies of everything I had signed. Monica returned twice. So did the detective, though only once to ask whether I wanted to make a formal statement supporting charges. I said yes, not after thinking for hours, not after crying into a pillow. Immediately. Yes. Because parents who forge a DNR minutes before surgery do not deserve the mercy of family ambiguity. A week later, after I was discharged and back home with a drain, a binder of instructions, and stitches pulling every time I laughed, Monica called me with the update that finished it. The prosecutor was moving forward. Not attempted murder. The law was rarely as emotionally satisfying as the truth, but enough. Forgery, fraud-related filings, falsified medical directive submission, attempted unlawful interference with patient care, additional civil exposure tied to the estate packet, enough to make the record permanent, enough to stop them from retelling this as a misunderstanding. The hardest part to explain is this. I did not feel triumphant. I felt clean, like a room had finally been stripped down to the walls after years of hidden rot. And 3 months later, I could walk upright without thinking about it, sleep through the night, and look at a hospital bracelet without feeling my throat close. My parents, meanwhile, were learning that public shame is easy to survive when you are shameless, but documented fraud is much harder. My mother lost the last of her social insulation once the hospital matter became impossible to spin. My father took the louder fall. His name was on the witness line, his voice was in the registration notes, and his arrogance was all over the timeline. They were not sentenced to some cinematic ruin, but they were charged, sued, and forced into a world they had always believed only happened to other families. My estate was no longer theirs to dream about. Graham finalized the revised will properly, and this time I did not leave anything unfinished. The condo stayed mine. The investment account stayed mine. Daniel's insurance money remained where it always should have been, part of the life I had to rebuild, not a prize for the people who tried to inherit me early. As for the hospital, Dr. Mercer later told me something I will never forget. He said the reason he froze when he saw the DNR was not only the document itself, it was that something about the timing felt predatory. Minutes before surgery, family waiting nearby, no prior discussion in the chart. He said medicine teaches you to notice when a fact is wrong, even before you know why. That instinct gave me time. Then the log gave me proof. If you made it this far, tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? Would you have pressed charges against your own parents? Or would you have walked away after surviving the surgery? And what was the moment in this story that hit you the hardest? If you liked the story, leave a like, subscribe, and stay with me for the next one.